This upcoming season will be the final season for the Mendiola save. In the last video, I sent out a plea to you all to help me kind of figure out what the future of this save would look like. And so many of you all commented, and I want to say thank you so much. You guys gave me so many great ideas. And I've decided, with all of the feedback, this will be the last season of the Mendiola save. Ultimately, I think it's probably the best idea at this point to end the save here. That way we can build something even better into a new save. I already know what that new save is going to be, and I think it will end up being a long-term save. But it will give us some options. The way I'm designing the save is so that we can play it up until FM25, and then depending on where we're at, we should be able to continue it into FM25, but we should also potentially have a breaking point too. But I'm planning for the next save to move through into the FM26 cycle. So we'll be able to kind of modernize everything that we've got here, bring everything up to where it is in real life. It's a save I'm really excited for. I've never done a save like it before, so I think it'll be really exciting. I'm looking forward to being able to play it and share it with you guys. But until then, we have one more season of the Mendiola save to get to. And I say this all to you because we are in the transfer window right now. We are in the summer transfer window. And I say that to let you guys know we have one more season left because I have done signings in this transfer window with that in mind. So I had one major goal during this transfer window, and I'm going back to the Asian Champions League final from last season. And I'm going to bring it up here because there are some things that I want to talk about. And I think we had two major weaknesses in the final. One was that in the first leg, we did not have anyone to replace David. David was a huge player throughout the entirety of our Champions League run, and we didn't have anyone else who could step in. McFall stepped in the first leg, didn't do great. And the defensive mid position, if we needed to go three at the middle, Justin Boss wasn't really that guy, and we didn't really have anyone else who could step into there. So I wanted to shore up the midfield a little bit, but most importantly, I don't think our defense was very good. Our back four, especially when we had people suspended due to yellows, we just didn't have a whole lot of Filipino players to come in and really help us to maintain the quality in our defense. And as a result, we allowed a lot of goals throughout our run. So my major focus over the course of the transfer window was to shore up the center mid, defensive mid, and especially though these defensive positions. So that was what I had in mind going into this transfer window. But first up, I want to talk about the players we've gotten rid of or sold in this transfer window. Because as you guys can see here, we now have a lot of transfer clauses, and I think that's going to set the club up into the future long after this save has ended. I will probably do like a 25-year into the future video, so hopefully these sales will help out with that. The first player we've sold is Martin. He's a good player. He's a player that's been with us for a couple of seasons. We signed him for £750, and he played quite a few matches for us. But ultimately, I wanted to bring in some other players. Martin never really played in Champions League because he's not Filipino or Asian. So I felt it was time to move him on, get the money that we could from him. As you can see, we sold him for 11K. We've got a few additional clauses for him in the future as well. And we have, I think, a 40% sell-on clause with him. I'll go through the transfer clauses after. But I think we got a decent deal here. Next up, a player who was out on loan last season who we finally been able to sell. We sold Tony to Elche in the Spanish second division, I believe. So he's probably got some decent potential on him. But we have sold him for 30K. He's now worth 550K. We also have a sell-on clause on him. So we've gotten his salary off, and hopefully we can make some money off of him. After that, a player I was really disappointed to lose out is Joseph Talrok. He was important for us as a Filipino forward. He got in the league 17 matches, 13 goals. But I'm not too mad about losing him. Because even though he got 13 goals in the league, he only got 2 in the Champions League and only had a 6.8 overall rating in the Champions League. So it might not be the worst thing in the world that we've lost him. I certainly think that we have replaced him potentially with a better player. So ultimately, he's getting paid 1.7K at his new club. I couldn't match that salary, so we had to let him go. But I think we'll be all right. Next up, though, one of our goats, a player that I'm sad has gone, but we needed to get him off our wage bill, Kenshiro Daniels, a 34-year-old Filipino. He's just gone down too much now. He doesn't have the pace that he used to have. The dribbling's gone down. He just can't play in the outside position that we really need him to play. And as a result, I got rid of him completely on a free. It was literally for zero. We just had to get rid of him to open up our wage budget for other players and other positions we needed. I'm really sad to see him go because he's been a good player for us for 2 seasons. He set the assist record in the PFL when we got him, and he was a great player for us over the course of 2 seasons. However, in the Champions League last season, he only had one goal, which I think was on a penalty, and he had a 6.6 overall rating. I don't think he's going to get any better over the course of this season. It's just he's going to continue to go down. The physicals are there, and I think continental competition is going to be too much for him. As a result, it was the right time to let him go. All right, a series of curious sales next that I was kind of surprised about. A big one, Daniel McFall, a player who I just don't think has developed well enough over his time at the club, and it was just time to get rid of him and sell him. We sold him for 45K to Wrexham, which was such an interesting sale to me. The next one's going to be really interesting too, but Wrexham coming in for one of our players. We also have a transfer clause on him. He's worth over $1 million now. So he is a very interesting player to have sold. This was a very good sale. He wasn't going to play much this season. I was glad to get him off the wage bill. And finally, a player I really wasn't expecting to sell, young Filipino goalkeeper John Reyes, who played phenomenally for us in his one knockout game. But he is now at Bristol City. And the Bristol City one is weird because they are also interested. I'll show you guys. I don't know this, like, I'm going to have to check actually. I'll check after this. But Bristol City like has a scout in the Philippines or something because they signed John Reyes for 13K, but they also are interested in Jesus Mendoza and they put in a bid for Jesus Mendoza. If we go to our transfers here, yeah, we can see I rejected a bid for Jesus Mendoza from Bristol City. So for some reason, Bristol City has an interest in our players. They must have a Filipino scout or something. But we've sold John Reyes. He wasn't going to play much this season. We got 13K for him plus a sell-on clause, so I think it was a good sale all in all. All right, though, I have to see here. Does Bristol City, I'm curious now, does Bristol City have a Filipino? Then Nigel Pearson is their head coach. He doesn't, yeah, he's just English. He doesn't have Filipino. Do they have a Filipino player? Yeah, John Reyes is their Filipino player. Let's look at their staff. Do they have a Filipino scout? They, I don't see, they don't have, let's see, chief scout. They don't have any scouts here, but they do have a Filipino fitness coach, Martin Cruz. Do we have an affiliation? How does he know about our players? He must be the one recommending them, looking at his information, other nationality, English, history. Yeah, he's never been with us before. He's just Bristol City's fitness coach. This must be how they're finding our players. I can't think of anything else. Maybe he's a fan of Mendiola and just loves our players. But anyways, those are all of our sales in total. It adds up to 99K worth of players. But as you can see here, we have a lot of good sell-on clauses. Tony, 30% of his next transfer fee. John Reyes, we also get 14K after his next international appearance, which is great because I'm the international coach. So I'm just going to sub him on with like a minute left and get that 14K for us. But we also have 40% of his next transfer fee owed to Mendiola. McFall, 35% of his next transfer fee owed to us. Martin, 40% of his next transfer fee and £500 for every match he pays for the next 10 league appearances. Grotzetegi, you all know that, 16K once he plays a match. 15K if Fukuoka avoid relegation from the J League. If we look at them, they're currently mid-table with absolutely no chance of being relegated. So we'll pick up that money as well. And Celso Jung, if you guys remember him, if he ever gets sold, 20% of the profit made on his next transfer would be owed to us. So overall, those are all the sales. Let's get into who we've brought in now. Because I have brought in players with the express purpose of making it back to and hopefully winning the Champions League final. And as I said, I focused on a few areas. First, center mid. Second, our defense. And with that in mind, I think we have an absolutely phenomenal central midfielder here. Haruna Rashid Nga. Absolutely phenomenal box-to-box midfielder. Where does Yannick David play? We play him as a box-to-box midfielder in our tactic. Nga is exactly what we're looking for in a box-to-box midfielder. Stamina for this level, pretty good, but great pace, great strength, good overall physicals. Pretty solid mentals, but most importantly, he has the defensive attributes that I'm looking for in a box-to-box midfielder. Good marking, good tackling, good aggression, good bravery. But again, as a box-to-box midfielder, he's also good going forward. So he has decent passing and pretty good technique and a good first touch. So overall, he has all of the attributes that I'm looking for in a box-to-box midfielder. And if we compare him to Mr. Yannick David, I actually think Nga is better. I'm still going to play David because him and Pradas have a very good relationship with each other. But overall, looking at their attribute totals, I think Nga is the guy. All right, next signing, Christos Michailidis. He is an Australian 19-year-old. I've got him because Australia is considered an Asian country. So he can fit in the 5+1 role, giving us an extra foreign player for Champions League. Overall, I think he's just kind of a solid overall player. He's not great, but he can play in defense. He shores up our defense a little bit. But most importantly, I think we can put him on the bench. And I'm fine with that because I signed him when we were still a semi-professional club. So I actually have him on non-contract. So not only is he a decent player who can be on the bench in Champions League games, but I'm not paying him anything unless he appears. So overall, solid, cheap signing. Next up, a player who I think is going to be a really solid center forward for us, but I don't think you all will see a lot of because he'll play mostly in the league. But this guy here, Juan Vaquero, I think he's got good potential ability. He's also a very good player already, but super well-rounded for a center forward. I think he's, like it has on here, more of a deep lying forward because of his good passing, vision, and teamwork. He doesn't have great physicals, but he has pretty good physicals for this level. And if we compare him to someone who's quite good on our team, such as a Jesus Mendoza, he's actually quite favorable compared to Jesus Mendoza. So I think a really good player. I think a player who would grow into the team eventually, but I actually signed him before I knew that this was going to be the last season. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have. But overall, I think he's a really good player. All right, next up, we have 4 more signings, and each of them are big-time Filipino players. First up, John Patrick Strauss, an absolutely phenomenal player, one of the key players for the Philippines national team. He had left his club, and we have been able to sign him on a free. And this is a player I am hugely excited about. What did we need? We needed a defensive midfielder and players in the back line. He fits both of those perfectly. At 33 years old, he's still physically very good. He's fairly professional and his natural fitness is 15. So these physical attributes aren't going down anytime soon. But overall, he has everything we need. And he is going to be a linchpin player in any potential Champions League run we might have. After that, a player that we're bringing in mostly for a little bit more attacking depth in case like Lloyd Fajrali has to go out is Oliver Bias, a player you guys have seen in the Southeast Asian Championships. And overall, he's not a great player. He's not physically very good. But for whatever reason, for the Philippines, he's always come up in big moments. So I think he could do it for us here. He's only a fringe player, so he's going to be fine sitting on the bench. But he's a player who I think could come in if we need him. We can bring him on off the bench if we need a goal. So overall, a squad player who will help us to fill out our bench for Champions League matches. But our final 2 players are huge names. First up, Rafael Obermeier, another player we've signed on a free. We haven't paid any money for any of our players. We brought in all of our guys on a free here. But this one is a huge signing because, again, he can play everywhere. He can literally play everywhere. But we need defenders. We've got defenders. If we need him to move forward into attack, he can move forward into attack. But Rafael Obermeyer has been one of the best players throughout this save. He's been huge for the Philippines. He is going to be huge for us. I think he's a great player. As long as his physicals can stay intact for this season, I think he will be fine, and I am excited to have him. John Patrick Strauss and Obermeyer will immediately move into our starting lineup. But finally, our big signing. Joseph Talaroc left the club. We needed to replace him with a new Filipino striker, and we've got the best there is, Sebastian Barak, the player who has come up huge time and time again for the Philippines. He is coming to us. Is he really that good looking at his attributes? No. But he is a meta striker. 14 pace, 16 jumping reach, and 11 heading. He can get in behind. I think he's going to complement Jesus Mendoza very well once we get into the Champions League. This is a player who we needed. This is a player who can change games for us. And again, he's got the FM meta with that jumping reach and that heading. So I'm hoping he will be able to get more goals in the Champions League than Talaroc did. And this is what I think things are going to look like going into next season. This is our best 11 of what I think is our best 11. And I think we might have to take probably Seed out, and like Sebastian Barak might come in here in Champions League games, and Julian Schwarzer will come in here. But this is what I think is a very strong starting lineup with a number of Filipino players, which will make things very good for us moving into the Champions League. John Patrick Strauss will start at right back. Obermeyer will start at left back. This will allow us to move Alvin Santos into the middle. Zubi Zareta, I think, is better than Atangana. You guys can see him here. And if we compare him with Atangana, these two will be fighting it out, but I think Zubi Zareta's physical attributes make him a little bit better. But now we have two really solid options. So if Atangana gets injured or Zubi Zareta gets injured, we have the other one who can come in and play that role really well. In the middle, of course, we have David and Pradas. However, we do have NGA who can come in as well. So you guys can see his star ratings. 2.5 stars for NGA and 3 stars for Yannick David. I think NGA is a little bit better, but I think David and Pradas have a very good connection with each other. They play well together, so we'll keep them there. Up top, replacing Gorozategi, we have Emmanuel. I think he's a good player. He's more of a winger. Gorozategi was more of an inside forward, so we'll see how that works over the course of the season. And then up top, we have Mendoza. We'll have Sebastian Barak here. And we have Vicente Alonso, who you guys saw a little bit of last season. But that is our team now. That will be the team moving into the season. A team that I think is better than last season. And I think we'll have another go at things here. But with all that being said, right now I'm still in the middle of preseason, so I'm going to try to get to the first match of the league season here. Hopefully that'll be the next one, or maybe we'll finalize the transfer special. But I think that's everything that we're going to be able to do for this transfer window because I am way over budget on the payroll. But again, this is the final season. I don't mind being over budget on the payroll. This is the final season. We're not too worried about finances anymore. We have one more season to try to win the Champions League. That's the goal for this year. But as always, thank you all for watching. This is going to be the final season of the Mendiola Save. I have treated the transfer window as such. It is the 7th season, and hopefully it will be a memorable one. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your kind comments and for helping me with what to do with this save and what the next save will look like. I'm looking forward to that, but more importantly, I'm looking forward to this season. So again, thank you all for watching. I hope you are doing well. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.